international solidarity also translated into wider sectoral action by civil society in support of liberation. Leaders such as Oliver Tambo, who many of you may know, approached governments all over the world and often got a refusal of support from formal governments. They then approached religious organizations, academics, unions, business organizations, women's organizations, and youth formations. And through these globally, they built a powerful resistance to apartheid. The leaders of Palestine, when approached at that time in the 60s, joined in the international anti-apartheid movement, and the bonds of solidarity began from that time. So it's not a new initiative. We didn't meet the Palestinian struggle on October 7th. We've been with them shoulder to shoulder in our own struggle, and we continue to be in solidarity. I know you all know that given where we all are today, it would be extremely difficult for any state in the world to try to codify laws such as the apartheid laws. But it is a well-established fact that the raging conflicts of today, although governed by significant conventions and treaties that render oppression illegal, we still have millions of people who suffer under the weight of oppression. The people and government of South Africa spent a number of months, as we all did, observing the killing of civilians in Gaza. And eventually, we decided that we had to act to try to stop the killing. All of us, as member states of the United Nations, have an obligation to uphold international law and to ensure respect for the provisions of the United Nations Charter. This is our obligation, not just for South Africa, but all member states of the United Nations. And the most powerful countries in the world have been the most significant in breaching international law, and it's a shame on them. These powerful governments are acting like men who abuse women.
Yes.
Men who use their power to harm our girls and our women. And we need to become very astute and vocal about calling them out. Because the gift of power is that you can do good for others. And if you use power to abuse, you are failing the human condition. And so it's absolutely critical that leadership, that parliamentarians in countries such as the United Kingdom call out their governments that are supporting the onslaught against Palestinian people and other oppressed communities in the world. Yeah. And it is only in So we decided, as the government of South Africa, not as Naledi, but the government of South Africa, to approach the court through use of the provisions of the Convention against the crime of genocide. As all the evidence we had access to suggested that there was a genocidal intent in the war against Palestinians. While we welcomed the early decisions of the court on our request for provisional measures, we were dismayed but not surprised that Israel ignored these measures and that it was intent on continuing its onslaught against the Palestinian people. There are some people who are very critical. Why did we go to the ICJ? We should ignore international institutions. Maybe we should have provided arms, if we could, to Palestinians or trained members of Hamas as They trained through Fatah, our own freedom fighters. But we were unable to provide arms, and we felt that if we have international law, it must be seen to act on behalf of those who are oppressed. The civil society organs, in my view, have a critical role to play in creating global rejection of oppression through, for example, academic boycotts, an end to research links with Israeli institutions, especially given the bombing of academic institutions in Palestine. No university should be having association with Israeli higher education institutions, because no academic in Israel has been speaking out against this academic atrocity. So we must encourage those universities where our children study to take up this cause. We have to do it. We did it as South Africans, going to universities and saying, don't engage with those who support apartheid. Going to international institutions and saying, don't have research partnerships with apartheid academics, especially those who write their law, who write the instruments that support the apartheid state to execute its oppression against us. So while I do love universities as a former academic, I'm afraid I've been agitating for a boycott in my country. We have succeeded with some institutions, but we are meeting rejection by a number. So I keep reminding them that we've benefited from academic boycotts. Yes. And we must be the ones who support it. We should lead as South Africa. We benefited from the sports boycott. We all said, no normal sport in an abnormal condition. We shouldn't have Israel playing sport anywhere in the world. So I have found it astounding that many in the academic community appear untouched by the direct bombing of all universities in Gaza, the killing of academics, the killing of teachers, the bombing of libraries and archives. All knowledge is being destroyed. All memory is being destroyed. All history is being destroyed. And as academics, this should be absolutely offensive to us, and we should act in response. We tolerated far less as academic South Africa, and still instituted very strict boycotts. Sports bodies were not allowed to play sport in any part of the world. And by the way, it was not South Africans who stopped those sports bodies. It was citizens of the countries in which apartheid sports teams thought they could play sport. Yeah. It was New Zealanders, Australians, it was in the UK, all over the world people said no way. No racist teams will play sport as though South Africa is a normal country where people are all allowed basic human rights. So it is the international solidarity that eventually resulted in the freedom South Africans enjoy today. And so I am asking you to really pay attention to the strategies that were developed with respect to apartheid South Africa, and look at which of them should be considered and utilized today. I know that there are many people in our various societies who have the view that you, government, go first, then maybe we'll follow. Many are reluctant to act unless they see a government acting. I remind all such persons that the liberation movements showed superior commitment to international solidarity than international governments, and we have to do the same. with respect to the freedom of Palestinians. Of course, the powerful forces that influence global affairs in a malignant manner offer solid support to Israel due to factors that many of you who are present here who are researchers would be fully alert to and have the capacity to research. Why is Israel allowed such impunity? And why don't we write about that? Why don't we investigate it more? The people of Palestine did not execute the Holocaust. It's a European malignant act. It wasn't Palestinians. But today, the Palestinian people are treated as though it's them who implemented the Holocaust. We need to correct the historical fact and present it as part of information, because we may be assuming everyone is as educated as we are on these issues. But you'll be surprised how much lack of education and knowledge there is out there. So we need to put information in the public domain so that people understand why we are so concerned about this cause and the plight of Palestinian people. I think one of the things that we also need to address is this matter that whenever you scrutinize the conduct of Israel and whenever you call out that state, you are then labeled anti-Semitic and you become a constant target of insults, as I have been. I've been called all kinds of names, my children are accused of all sorts of things. I'm threatened, that I'm being watched and so on. And here I am